I would say I'm the foremost expert at getting myself into rooms. I'll give a few different examples. Today, every Monday we go to the office, or at least one of the offices for one of the clients that we have. And this guy, he has about 10,000 apartment units. He's an absolute expert. And he's going to be going to speak in front of 8-figure entrepreneurs on Wednesday. And his assistant just mentioned it. She said, "Oh, Ken, you're going to be speaking at the Global Ambassador in front of all these like 34 very high net worth individuals." And I was like, "Oh, I'll meet you there. What time are we going?" But I structured it in a way where I was going to be doing it for him. I was like, "Oh, I'll go with you to help out with recording." And I was like, of course I'm going to be fucking going. I'm not going to miss that. And so I'll find a way to dangle my way in a way where it's not impacting anybody negatively. Let's not wreck this truck here. Another example is actually this was before I even started working with this guy, Ken, but I knew I was going to. We were at a live event together. I didn't go with him, but I was friends with him. We were friendly. And George, the first guy that I started working for, said that he was going to dinner with this guy Ken, with this guy Robert Kiyosaki, with this guy Jason, and then one other person, who now I actually work with pretty much every single person who was at this dinner. But George said, "Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to be going to get dinner with these guys." And I was like, "The fuck you are? I'm going to that dinner." I didn't tell George that, but I was like, how the hell am I going to get into this dinner? Because that sounds awesome. I want to hang out with Ken and Robert Kiyosaki and get dinner. And I was thinking, they're going to a nice steakhouse. So what I did was we were at a big conference. And so I went up and I found Ken. And I said, "Hey, Ken, what time's dinner again tonight?" And he was like, "I think it's like 7 o'clock. And I was like, "Where are we going?" He was like, "Del Fresco's. That's this nice steakhouse." We were in Orlando or Miami. I forget which one. And I said, "Hey, how about I call the Uber and we'll just go in together? We're going to dinner with George, right?" He said, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." He said, "Just make sure you order an XL because Robert's going to come with us too, Robert Kiyosaki." And so I called the XL Uber. And so it's me, Ken, and Robert Kiyosaki in the Uber just chatting it up. This was before I was working with Ken. I just knew that he was going to be at the dinner, and I just told him, like, if I tell him, "Hey, where's dinner again?" he's going to assume that I'm obviously going to the dinner. So we get there first, and I did this strategically. So we were the first ones, and I walk in, and I say, "Hey, we're here for a table for 7. We might have one extra." And I just handle the whole thing. We get there, they bring an extra little table for us. George comes in, and he doesn't say shit. He gives me one of those looks like, what is going on right now? But no one cares because they respect it if you are forcing yourself into the room. If anything, George thought it was awesome that I found a way in there. But just because you don't have necessarily permission for something, it does not mean you're not invited. You just have to find a way to get the invite. And so if I'm sitting at a table with Ken and Robert, obviously no one's gonna come up and say, "Hey, dude, who invited you to this thing?" I pulled up with these fuckers. Ooh. That just got my adrenaline. This is George's truck that we're in right now, so I definitely don't want to crash this thing. But those are just 2 examples. I do this probably every single week, and PJ can definitely attest to this. Anytime something dope is going on, or there's going to be a cool opportunity, there is an incredibly high chance I will be at that thing, no matter what it is.
Dude, that's exactly what I was thinking when he mentioned that he's going to be speaking at the Global Ambassador at Brendan Turner's thing. And you're like, "Okay, I'll come record the video." "Okay, we'll just finish this second video that we're supposed to record today. We'll do it there. We'll make it a lot better because we'll be moving spot to spot." I'm like, dude, he's back at it, fucking working on his craft.
I know and you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna go there with Ken, and someone's gonna ask Ken about, because the metrics that he's looking at, I have blown the fuck up. And so what's actually gonna end up happening is I'm gonna get 30 8-figure entrepreneurs begging me to work with them when I go there, because Ken is going to do all the talking for me. Ken's going to say, "Hey, Josh completely blew up all my online stuff. Here's what he did. Josh, why don't you just tell him what you did? Because you fucking crush it for me." And the reason I know this is going to happen is because it happens every single time we go somewhere. It's so then when these opportunities come, you just have to take advantage of it. It's not necessarily easy, but if you just think a little bit outside the box, it's not that difficult.
Is there any other times you can remember when you would do it? There's so many times you do it.
Another, well, I do this at least once a week. Anytime something dope is happening, I'll find my way to go in. The Collective is a great example of that. That is George and Ken's awesome mastermind that they have, where now some of my best friends in the world are members. I never once got an invite to go to one of those things. I just fucking what I do is I find the lady's email who runs it, and I said, hey, I'm going to be flying in with Ken. What do I need to know to where I'm all good to go for everything? And they'll say, what are you talking about? I'll say, yeah, just ask his assistant. She's not going to go ask his assistant. So then she sends me all the hotel information. Then I say, hey, Ken, we're going to the Collective. Let me just fly with you. We'll record videos on the way over there. And so then I'm going to say, while we're there, we're going to record some really cool stuff. And then you're going to say, okay. So I just make his life easy to where he doesn't have to think about it. No one cares if you're there, if you're providing value and you're doing cool things. If you're just a constant leech, I'm offering free work to do all these things. But I'm doing it in a way where no one is even questioning if I'm supposed to be there or not. Like that is not on anybody's mind. It's just purely assumed that Josh will be there. Same thing with the first time I went to this really big real estate guys event. Ken was flying into Denver on his plane. At this point, I'd never been on a private jet before, and I was thinking I have nothing going on this weekend. That sounds really cool. How am I going to get myself to this event to where my hotel room is paid for and I'm flying on this jet? And so I structure up this fucking masterclass of like 5 different videos that need to get made on this plane. And actually, a few of them ended up going mega viral. But I was just going through it in my head. And so I sent this over to Ken and Annika and say, hey, here's, I think, the plan for when you go to Denver. If only there was someone who could shoot this for you. And then Ken calls me up and says, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I say, funny enough, I'm free. And so then we go to Denver, get treated like absolute gods, and just do all these really cool. Anytime George is going somewhere cool, like St. Bart's, this is another great example. St. Bart's is this funny little island where only hedge fund billionaires live. And George goes there with some absolute rock stars. And he was planning a trip there. And I basically just said, actually, no, I didn't even ask George. I texted George's assistant and said, what dates are George going to be in St. Bart's and where is he staying? And so I found out all the details for the dates and stuff. And all I do is make their life as easy as possible. You don't want to give these people more work. You want to make their life easy. So I said, hey, George, we're going to St. Bart's February 23rd. And I never use the word you're going. I would always say, we are, of course, we're going. And is there anything that I should bring in terms of equipment? And then the question isn't, can I come? It's what equipment should I bring? And so then he's like, oh, no. He's like, where are you staying? that was actually the question George asked me. And I said, well, I got this Airbnb right outside. He's like, well, you're going to get a Twizy, right? You're going to, that's the car that you need to rent. And I was like, no, I'll make sure I handle that with Adriana, his assistant. And so you just make it as easy as humanly possible for the other person, because they just don't want to go out of their way to put in effort for you to do something. That's really what it comes down to. No one cares if you're there as long as you're not annoying to be around, but other people don't want to put in effort to get you there. Therefore, I put in all the effort. Therefore, I get to do all these really cool things, and it ends up being like some of the most memorable, awesomest things I've ever done is because of just these weird ways that I'll just figure out a way to get into the room. And that's kind of the overarching theme. Just find a way to get yourself in the room, and everything else sorts itself out. And all of these people respect it immensely. That's kind of the key thing, that they are happy that I'm there once I'm there, because it shows how much ambition I have and all these other things which they want to see in younger generations. And they want to help out young people, but they're only going to help people that are already helping themselves.